Okay, so it's 4:01. Can we have a motion to start the meeting? It's just you and I, Amy. Jen is not here.
All right, then I guess I will make the motion to start the meeting.
I second that motion. So the Board of Health meeting for April 13th is officially open at 4:02 p.m. So welcome everyone to our Board of Health meeting, and in accordance with Mass General Law, we're required to let you know that this meeting is being recorded, and hopefully none of you are recording the meeting because we ask that you do not. And we will first start with public comment. Public comment, you have up to about 5 minutes to say what you'd like to tell us, and we will not be responding, but listening and taking notes to review at later meetings. And at this point, does anyone have any public comment before we get started with the agenda?
Mark and Sabrina are on our agenda, so we'll get to them.
Okay, so we can move to the first article, which is the elimination of easement requirement for monitoring wells. You want to start with that?
Yeah, so our well regulations are specific to each town in Massachusetts. They're kind of like tobacco and body art. There's not like overarching regulations. Ours are a tad bit outdated. They were put into place in 2004. They were on our, we were supposed to update them because we did tobacco and body art, and this was our next thing to do, but COVID hit, so we're operating off of those old ones. For some reason, and I've asked around, I asked our DPW director, who used to be the director of our water department, there's a requirement that there's an easement for any monitoring well. So city personnel can access that property in order to take samples. I've never heard of that. I have no reason to take samples if someone's monitoring well. I don't know why that was put in the regs, and it's a huge cost for people who want to put monitoring wells in, which typically they're trying to do the right thing because there'll be like, a release of some type of contaminant, or they're trying to see if there's any issues with the groundwater. So it's kind of like this unneeded cost, in my opinion. Amy, I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but I know Mark's come to us before and he's like, I need to get an easement. And I'm like, yeah. And we've either gotten a variance from you guys or they've just pulled their application. So I was going to recommend either, instead of doing all the well regulations right now, which we just don't have the ability and time to do, either eliminate that section of the well regulations or just put language that says you give authority to the health director to waive it herself. It's either or. I honestly I don't know why we have that requirement. So Amy, I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but I'm good with getting rid of it or just giving me the authority to waive it so we don't have to come to you every time and hold up the process.
I have not heard of it. It's not something that we have in any of the communities that I've worked in. But if we're going to change a regulation, we should have a public hearing. So at this point, I think we could make a variance for the request that's coming before us tonight, and then on the future, have a public hearing to amend our regulations.
Yeah, I agree.
We can do that if you want. Public hearings, as far as I know, are only required for Title V. The right thing to do is to have a public hearing, but sometimes just to save time, and because to me it seems kind of like a small change. But it's up to you. If you want to have a public hearing, we can.
I mean, most likely we're going to post a public hearing and no one's going to show up to have a statement on it. But I think we can always cover our ass, our butt, and your butt by having that public hearing, and the town. But really, and if we had that public hearing, we say we gave everybody a chance to speak up. No one did. That's why, we made X, Y, or Z decisions. So I don't think it needs to prohibit us moving forward with anything that is on the agenda for tonight. Yeah. But I think we should follow the process, even if it's not explicitly written that we have to.
I agree.
Do you want to just save money and do a public hearing and just do our well regulations all at once. I just don't know when that's going to be because of COVID right now. We don't really have a lot of extra time, but there are model regulations at the state, which I think would just be easy enough for us to adopt. Maybe we can change them a little bit, but do you want to just maybe update our well regs all at once?
I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, that would make more sense to do it all at once.
Okay, we can try.
We don't typically stray too far from the model regs unless there's, like on tobacco, we did for a while with the 21 plus, but well, actually we did it and then the state did it. So we didn't stray for very long at all, but typically we don't stray very much from the model regs, at least this iteration of the board.
And that will also address why Sabrina and Mark are here, because according to them, I didn't know this because we don't do wells a lot, but monitoring wells typically aren't regulated. So Easthampton's the only community that they're aware of that permits monitoring wells. So like if we adopted the model regulations, we would be kind of more in line with other towns. So I say maybe we'll, I don't know if it will be like in the summer, but maybe in the fall, we'll just keep wells on our radar to update, and hopefully it will be a quick process because we'll just adopt the state ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that can happen in the next couple of months, really.
Yeah. Okay. So Sabrina.
There are other municipalities that require permits for monitoring wells. It's just to the caliber that Easthampton requires, a stamped plan, and, the easement, the process is a lot, it's more arduous than other towns.
Yes. So as far as I know, the permitting isn't the problem because we should know that there's a well there because we want to know what's happening there. It's the easement and the access and all of the other things that are the problem.
Yeah, they have to meet the same setbacks that private. So the way our well regulations are written, let's kind of segue into the next part. Our regulations define private wells as all of the different types of wells. So drinking, irrigation, monitoring. So they have to meet all the same setbacks as like a drinking water well. So that's why they're here tonight, because they don't meet a lot of those setbacks. So I don't know if you want me to get into that now or if we want to close out the easement thing and kind of move on.
Yeah,
let's close out. So you want me to make a motion to, Maggie, you want a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So I make a motion to have a public hearing to address updating our well regulations.
I second that motion.
Aye.
Favor? Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll try to prioritize that in the upcoming months. Okay, so the reason Sabrina and Mark are here is Mark was here partly because of the easement issue and also because they're monitoring wells, which, correct me if I'm wrong, are required per DEP because of it's at a gas station.
Yes, the property at 317 Main Street, it's been a gas station since the 1920s. There used to be monitoring wells there. In 2016, they pulled the old underground tanks out of the ground and they completely rebuilt the gas station. During that process, they took out 640 tons of contaminated soil. And the excavation basically was limited by the building, the property line, and they couldn't dig under the state highway. So as part of the process, the site is in what we call a temporary solution under DEP regulations. Every 5 years, you kind of got to look back at your temporary solution and have a new LSP opinion generated. So we'd like to install 3 new monitoring wells on the property at kind of the locations where the 3 old historical ones were, and test groundwater, see if things have improved, 5 years after that big excavation project.
Thanks. Yeah, so the well regulations require all different types of wells, irrigation, monitoring, to meet the same requirements that a drinking water well has to. So they, it wants to have the same setbacks to like septic systems and other like agricultural fields and stuff like that. Where a monitoring well, it's not providing like potable water to anybody or anything like that. So the setbacks are hard sometimes for them to meet, or if they don't meet them, it's not as, I don't want to say as big of a deal, but it's not as much of a concern because it's just meant for testing the water. So for this one at 317 Main Street, one well is 15 feet from a property line instead of the required 25. I don't know if it's a different one or that same one. One is within 25 feet. Well, that's wrong. So it's probably 15 feet. I think I have a typo here. One is within 25 feet from another dwelling, and which I think is the actual gas station itself. And then all 3 wells are within 150 feet from a subsurface fuel storage tank, which is a gas station. So it makes sense. So they're all about 6 to 10 feet from that. So again, if this was like a private water well, I'd be concerned because obviously it's near, these fuel storages and stuff like that. So I would recommend that we grant the variance. I did check in with DEP just because we don't do a lot of wells, and I just want to make sure that we're not granting a variance, when we shouldn't be. And they kind of agreed with what I'm saying, and they said the only issue you want to be aware of is that while they're drilling, they don't make any damage to nearby property. So you want to make sure that they don't damage the gas station, but it's the gas station owner that's requesting this well. So I don't know if anybody has comments or questions.
So,
go ahead, Maggie.
Go ahead.
No,
The first well that's like within 15 feet of the property line, that's not close to the actual building though. It's just from the property line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you wondering what property line it is?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Do you have the map? I can share my screen and share the map with everyone.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I don't know if you're able to though, because does anybody know Zoom stuff? Oh, I'll make you a co-host so you can share it. See if that works.
Try share my screen here. Share this.
There we go.
Perfect.
You guys can see the map here.
Mm-hmm. Can you make it bigger?
I'm trying.
There we go.
Maybe zoom in. Okay. So can you guys see my little cursor moving around?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Kind of where it's moving around. This is where the underground storage tanks are currently, and this is where the previous generation of tanks were. And in the red is where we'd like to put 3 monitoring wells. There were formerly wells located at these almost exact locations, probably within 5 feet of where these new proposed wells are marked. And those were destroyed when the tanks were removed and we excavated soil back in 2016. So we're essentially putting things in that used to be there. We have drawn around the building the 25-foot property line offset. As you can see, we got one well kind of on the right side here that's, within that 25-foot offset range. And then one well up to the top, which is close to the building. And this other one, I think, is just within, just too close to the tanks per the regulations. There's physically nowhere on the property that you can get 150 feet away from the underground tanks.
So how does that work when you're drilling that close to those tanks?
Well, we have all sorts of like health and safety procedures. The drillers do too. At this site, all the underground electrical conduits and the actual supply lines from the tanks to the pumps are beneath the concrete. They come from the tanks and go under the concrete to the gas pumps.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come from the tanks and go to these vent pipes located right along the property line. And, you know, we make sure, confirm with the owner that we're not going to hit underground utilities.
Right.
We call dig safe. We pre-mark the locations. And then we hire a subcontractor and they drill the locations. It's something we do on quite a regular basis in other towns.
That close. Okay.
Yeah.
I have 12 at my fire station because the soil was contaminated and methane gas was building up. So we have all around our fire station there are wells, and there was no concerns when those were put in.
Issues. Okay.
Do you have setback requirements, Amy, for monitoring wells in your town?
They were put in before me, and there wasn't very much, but I don't believe there are, or these would clearly not meet any. I mean, they're on top of the building practically.
Yeah, you can tell that the setback requirements were geared for private wells.
Private, you know.
So this is, I told them it's kind of like a technicality that we have to go to the Board of Health to approve these variances. And a lot of times these are required by DEP, I believe, you know, after some type of contaminant found, they want the monitoring well. So it would just be kind of counterproductive to deny a monitoring well when we're trying to better the environment, I guess, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Or we're ensuring safety.
Yeah. So.
Maybe the original thought process was at some point these would become drinking wells. I mean, I'm like having a hard time thinking about what the applicability of even putting this in the regulation would have been.
I think they just accidentally didn't realize the wording when they use private well throughout the regulations. And when you look at the definition of private well, it says monitoring, irrigation, private, all these different.
It was an unintended consequence.
Yes.
That's what I think. So that's why it's like, you know.
So we really, if we wanted to be really easy, we could just change the definition of the well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, but our regulations are need updating, and I'd rather just get with.
And we'll do that
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a good thought.
I just want to put out a point. You know, we're the folks that drill the wells. They're certified by the state as certified well drillers. Here is the regulations that they follow. It's by the state. You know, by DEP. Standard reference, and it's that thick. I'm not an expert at this, but I've glanced through a lot of it. And the drillers, you know, if they're drilling like a really deep well that's next to something that's a source of contamination, and they may think that, you know, contamination from the surface is going down and affecting someone else's drinking water, they would certainly let us know.
Are you saying our regulations are insignificant compared to that document?
Oh no, your regulations are not.
Mark, I'm just kidding. That looks very thorough.
Yes.
Point received.
So does someone want to make a motion to approve or not approve?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the installation of the 3 new monitoring wells for 317 Main Street, Easthampton.
And are we also making a motion for a variance on the existing setback requirements?
Right.
Or do you want it to be 2 separate motions, Bree, or do you want it together?
So you can do the easement variance and the setback variance all for the same. Because I didn't include the easement in his because I thought we were going to address it. But it makes sense what we're doing. So yeah, you're going to have to do a variance for both.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So Jackie, you can just tack on to include the variance of the easement requirements for the setback. That makes sense.
Okay.
The language is on the agenda, Jackie.
Yep, that's usually what I use.
The only typo is 3B should say 15 feet provided, not 25.
Okay.
And then for the next well, this one's a little bit funky because it's on city property. I think most of them. So we don't need the easement variance, but because these are on city property, they are behind, I don't think it's Paragon Building.
I'm sorry, did we second that last motion?
I don't know.
I did not. No, I didn't. I second that motion.
Okay.
Aye.
Thanks, Maggie. So Sabrina got in touch with the mayor's office about this, and the city attorney actually wrote up an agreement that Mike Michon, the property owner of 1 Ferry Street, signed off, and the mayor signed off basically saying, like, if these monitoring wells damage city property or cause basically any issue, that Mike takes responsibility, as far as I understood the agreement. So that's been signed, and so that's good. Same type of thing. The monitoring wells don't meet some of the setbacks. So this is like adjacent to Millside Park, near the bike path and behind those mill buildings. So there's 2 of them, and both of them are within the 25-foot setback from a public way, 3 feet and 0 feet provided, because one is in the public way, which is the parking lot. Both proposed wells are within 25 feet of a sewer line. They are 21 and 6 feet provided. So again, if these were a drinking water well, we'd be a little bit more concerned. But I don't see an issue with that. Both monitoring wells are within 25 feet from a property line. And both monitoring wells are within the 50-foot setback from surface or subsurface drains. And those are 43 and 7 feet provided.
So, Bree, if you want, if you make me the co-host, I can also share my screen if you'd like to see.
Yeah, I think it's a good visual. I just made you a co-host. Thanks.
Sure.
I think I did. Yeah, okay.
All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So these 2 wells, it's actually one of the wells are, they're highlighted right here. This one is located on city property. And this one is actually located on Interland LLC, Real Estate LLC, which is also Mike Michon. These are the buildings right here. And the smokestack is back over here. So this whole area is parking lot. Mm-hmm. And, these are all of the utilities. There's a lot of them. Some are discontinued where they only have, they're capped on either side. But this is, the plans that we know of what's back here. Because of it being an old mill complex, we know that there might be some unknown utilities down here. And for these installations, we're actually going to have our drilling contractor pre-clear these locations using a Vector truck. So if there are any utilities that are surprises that are encountered, or let's say for some reason the surveyor got the location of these utilities slightly off, we'll be able to offset our well location and just go around it. So we're not just drilling blind on these because there's so many old utilities here. This well over here is right alongside, this is the bike path. So there's enough room in here where we can, back down the bike path so there isn't any ruts or anything made. It's a clear path, and we'll just back right off the side and be able to kind of use the bike path as a driveway, making sure that traffic, foot traffic is still able to get past, and we'll also have our staff on site during the whole installation process, logging everything. So, and this is, one well is actually located on Mike Michon's property. And so we would need the easement variance for this location. And placement of our wells. So because this is a release location, there's a historic release of petroleum hydrocarbons, and these wells, we're not anticipating that they're impacted. We're hoping that they are far enough away from the release area that we're able to display that they are impacted. So the contaminated plume isn't migrating towards the mill ponds, and, you know, because that's a resource area. And we've also positioned them where this one in particular, you know, it's on the crosshatches of the parking spaces, so cars don't park right over the top of them. They're really hard to find when cars are over them. So another tidbit is their well construction. Every monitoring well that we install, and Mark pointed to that regulation that they install or that they use to install wells, we actually have bentonite the well construction. So as they put the slotted PVC into the ground, groundwater will pass through and you're able to grab a sample from the monitoring well. And above where you sample, there's a 2-foot section of bentonite clay chips that prevents any surface water from coming down the top of your well and potentially impacting groundwater. I mean, it's a common concern with gas stations and, you know, parking lots and roadways that your well could, you know, be an avenue for additional contamination. We like to solve problems, not create them. So that's standard practice that every monitoring well and every driller that we use does that when they install them. So, and at the surface, they have caps and they're flush curb box in concrete in the asphalt. So, there any questions?
Okay, so Amy?
No questions here.
Bree, do you have anything to add, or okay?
No, I think the agreement between the city and Mike Michon covers like any damages or anything like that. And then, so I'm good with them.
Okay. Do you want to put a motion forward, Amy?
So here we're just making another motion to give a variance, Bree?
Yeah, for the
setback and the
and no easement because it's already on city property. Well, there's one well that's not. So yes, you will have to do an easement. Yes.
Okay. I make a motion to grant a setback and easement variance for, what's the property address?
172 and 180 to 180 Pleasant Street.
172 and 180 Pleasant Street.
I second that motion. All in favor? Yes.
So I should be able to get those permits. When do you guys want to start? I know like 2 weeks ago, but.
Always.
Whenever we can.
I can do it tomorrow morning then.
Okay. We have not scheduled with drillers, but once we have their schedule or moving forward, we can let you know, just a heads up so you know what's happening, you know, after permits are issued.
Okay, yeah, I should be able to do the permits up tomorrow.
I do have a question in your regulations under section 6-16 about the variance, and there is like a 35-day kind of waiting period and stuff. Just to make sure we comply with that a little bit too, if need to.
I don't have that in front of me, Bree.
I can pull it up. again, I don't see why. It's like a lot of these things. I think someone was like really regulation happy back then. Okay, so 616. Let's see, a copy of each. Yeah, a copy of each variance shall be conspicuously posted at town hall. We're not going to do that. Under any variance until 30. So it says no work shall be done under any variance until 35 days elapsed from its issuance. I don't see why. I don't understand. But do you guys want to just make a motion that they can start immediately?
Are we allowed to make a variance from a
variance for a variance? That's what I'm asking for. Yes.
There is a line in there that says for emergencies, right, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah. Emergencies in a couple months, our client's probably going to start getting a fine of $1,000 a day. So.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider this like a true emergency, but I think that it's unreasonable to make you wait 35 days. So,
I make a motion to, what is the right word? To bypass the need for a waiting period in these two circumstances.
I second that motion. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we need new regs. Do you guys have any plans for any other wells in Easthampton? We can try to anticipate that.
Not at the moment, but we get a lot of work, and it's tough to turn down Easthampton projects and watch other consultants do them without getting a permit.
Yeah, I did recently look on DEP's website after you said that a lot of the permits there say like not applicable. So, I mean, if we can reach out to those companies and just remind them, but it's just hard to do. Regulations do take a lot of work. And right now, like there's obviously not a lot of free time and we're moving into a really busy time. So I would say like the fall is when we it'd be more realistic to update them. I mean, we could easily just approve the state ones, but it takes time to learn them. And then I have to update all of our applications and I honestly can't commit to that right now. So.
And Mark, it seems, I mean, we're pretty reasonable. So if there's a job there, there's no need to turn it away. If you want to come and talk to us, and we're happy to hear any of the projects, so I hope this process has been, I know that there was some problem with the applications at the beginning, but this process, I hope, was smooth enough that it would eliminate the need to turn down any jobs in Easthampton.
Well, I think another thing, and it was okay with my project because we already had substantial plans because it was, an old mill redevelopment project. But for Mark's, we had to retain surveyors to have plans, and surveyors are quite expensive to get a site plan, and other towns that we've come to usually just take one of our professional site plans and will accept those in place of a stamped plan. So also
for now, I would say if that comes up, you could come to us in advance for a variance of that requirement.
Okay.
Right. So yeah. I think we all are agreeing that the regulations that are in place that was set long before any of us were here are not, in fact, serving any purpose of protection of the environment or public health. Right. Like for this purpose. And we're happy to discuss any variance that makes this project in Easthampton cost prohibitive or work prohibitive. So we have the authority to issue these variances for exactly these kind of reasons. And we're happy to hear any concerns that you guys might have on future projects.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Bree, thank you for working with us. I know it was challenging at moments with definitions and all of that. So I know that, we really appreciate it. So thanks.
Yeah, Bree's in a tough spot of enforcing regulations that she may not agree with. And as a public health director myself, there are, whether we agree with the things we're enforcing or not, we have to enforce them because otherwise it falls on our back. So I can respect the place that Bree was in and the struggle that sometimes her role has to balance. So so I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Well, thank you guys for coming. I will get those permits out to you guys tomorrow via email. So
Thank you very much, Bree. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome.
Definitely.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey.
Okay.
I hope that was okay.
Yes, thank you. It was just frustrating because they both submitted applications that literally said NA on every single question. And then they submitted a copy of the assessor's records for the stamped plan, which how can I even verify setbacks with the assessor's record? It was this whole thing and it just spiraled and I just realized.
I mean, you're in a hard situation. You have to enforce. Your job is to enforce these regulations, and I tried to make that clear at the end, and then I kind of kept going, and I hope it wasn't lost. But the reality is that you didn't make these regulations, but if you didn't enforce them, you could lose your job, right?
Yeah. And after kind of going back and forth, because Sabrina submitted a permit application again that was pretty blank, and so we talked and we both kind of vented to each other, and then we kind of came to a common ground that yes, I have to enforce these. Yes, the regulations suck. They don't make sense, and I get it, but it's just a technicality. We have to go in front of the Board of Health, get it in the meeting minutes, and it's it's not the end of the world. But I did just realize there's a $50 charge for variance request that I didn't charge. So,
Oh,
I post waive the fee for a variance request.
second.
we're just waiving every single requirement in these regs.
They're clearly antiquated regulations, and it's not their fault. So I don't see any need to charge them.
Well, it did cost hours
until we change things and
yeah.
make it much simpler.
It did cost hours of work on your end, Bree, and I get that, and that's annoying given all that we're doing right now that you had to deal with that, especially if what you were getting was less than helpful. But to charge them because of our antiquated regulations, regardless of the work that it took, I think is.
I know.
Yeah,
so
not their fault.
I look forward.
If you need me to repeat that motion because I did it rather quickly, just chat me and I'll do it.
Okay.
I do look for the good thing about the well regulations updating them is they're already pretty much made at the state level. So if it should go quick, it's just what takes a long time is learning them and then creating the applications and the permits so it's a little bit more of an undertaking than I think just voting on them. But okay, so let's move on. It's on my to-do. We'll do it in the fall. So Brian is here, our new health inspector. He's been here for a week and 2 days. We've already condemned a house. We've had a bunch of stuff going on. We closed. We had to kind of put the halt on a couple of food trucks that were having issues. So within a week, I feel he's already been here for months because it's just he's been exposed to a lot. So Brian, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself and kind of. You met Maggie, obviously, but not Amy.
Yeah, obviously Maggie and Jackie, and I haven't met Amy, but I'm familiar with Amy. I'm president of East Meadow. So, but
you live in East Meadow?
I do, yeah. Actually, I grew up in East Meadow, and I'm a homeowner as of 2 years ago. So, yeah.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yep. Yeah, I graduated from East Meadow High School in 2005. So.
And you're the self-appointed president. or are you a president of some organization?
Resident.
Oh,
resident.
I thought he said president. I'm like, what do we have here? Rotary?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take on that. I'll
Lion?
gladly take on that role. You know.
You belong better with become a country.
We
Yes.
have a lot of organizations with presidents, so I was wondering which one you belong to.
Oh no. So I'm excited. I'm new to the public health field. I'm currently still working towards my degree, my bachelor's in public health. I come from a background of restaurant experience, 8 years at a restaurant that many people are familiar with in this area, Hot Table. Also manage that restaurant as well. And I also have a background in EMS. I'm certified as an EMT in both Massachusetts and Connecticut, and still employed as a part-time EMT in Connecticut. So I'm hoping I can bring my knowledge from the restaurant industry, as well as emergency medical services, and my high standard of cleanliness, and looking forward to serving the city and working with all of you guys.
Yeah,
Great on board, Brian.
it's been nice too because being in the EMS industry, Brian's used to going into situations with going into homes where there may be like excessive clutter, unsanitary conditions, all that kind of stuff, mental illness. So we've had a few run-ins already where it didn't seem to faze him, where most people would be like, oh my gosh, but so we're just going right at everything, and Brian's been coming with me everywhere, and we're excited. We're going to be learning camps soon. We're going to go to Northampton Health Department on Thursday and do a little training on camps over there because they have a couple newer inspectors. So we're just going full steam ahead.
Good.
So we have to vote him,
Brian, because you had a hat on last time, and I was like, who is that guy?
Yeah. We have to vote him in as an agent of the board too.
Okay. I put forward a motion to invoke Brian. Appoint Brian Chapdelaine. Is that how you say it?
You got it.
Chapdelaine as a new health agent for the City of Easthampton Health Department.
A second.
All in favor? Yes. Yay.
Amy, were you able to connect with Brian about shadowing Donna? I'm assuming were you chatting with
I
him?
assumed once I approved it, Donna was going to take care of that on her own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've talked to Donna through email. I got to touch base with her. The last time I talked to her, I think it was Thursday of last week. Yeah, we just got to figure out just a schedule of when we can match it up, and then I can shadow her.
Yeah, and what you hope to see. A lot of people who shadow her come with I've already done kind of like the corporate things. I want to see mom and pops, or I want to see she does a lot of shadowing at Big Y, because you see everything there. You have the sushi, you have the bakery, you have the meat, the fish, the shellfish tags. You can see a lot of things at a grocery store inspection. So I don't know what it is. It sounds like you might have. I texted Bree, am I old because I have no idea what Hot Table is. So I don't know what kind of environment Hot Table is, but you probably have that
Hot
down.
Table. Yeah, just it's like a grilled panini restaurant, kind of set up like a Subway, but a little bit more high class. So.
I have neither visited or heard of it. So
Oh, you got to check it out. It's family owned. My cousins own it. And they have 7 locations now, still family owned. They started in Springfield. They have 7 between Massachusetts and Connecticut now.
So you didn't want to open a Hot Table? You wanted to come to this wonderful city?
That's right. Yeah. Working in a family business, I wanted to get out of that. So.
Yeah. Okay. I don't blame you. I have a family like that myself. All right. Well, welcome on board. We're excited to see Bree get some support and it sounds like you're going to be able to offer her that and the residents of Easthampton some good coaching and feedback on the challenges that business owners face.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm looking.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to helping Bree and helping the residents and the citizens of the city.
Jackie, just to clarify, we voted him in as an agent of the board, not as a health agent. It's just a health agent. And I think it's Mass General Law requires anyone that works on behalf of the board doing enforcement to be an agent of the board. So just in the minutes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good grief.
Next on the agenda, moving right along, Sharila is not here. I don't see. She is a temporary food vendor. Me and Jackie went crazy today trying to find previous minutes.
Sorry.
I
just am anal retentive. I wanted to see what we told her last time, but I guess we didn't see her. You just told us.
So I looked in the agendas and minutes because I know that I brought it to you guys.
Yeah, I remember.
Yes. And I have an email saying I talked with my Board of Health and they said, so it's not like official minutes, but we had agreed. So she does many temporary food events. And she didn't want to have to pay $45 every single time, which I understand, but temporary food events are really meant to be temporary. They're just, in my opinion, they're different than food trucks. I even think food trucks, go ahead.
And by regulation, they're 14 days. Well, I mean, that's not us.
Yes. So the Mass Food Code says temporary food events are up to 14 days in one single location. So what that means, how I interpret it, is somewhere like the Big E, 14 days straight at the fair, or 14 days straight, like whatever. But you guys had agreed, and I was fine with this, it could be 14 days at the same location. So if she, for example, is scheduled to go to the Brass Cat tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this week, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday of next week. So it's within a 14-day period. It's all at the Brass Cat. We agreed that could encompass the $45. Yep. Even though that's still doing her a favor, because technically we should be, according to the math, it's not consecutive. So
I remember.
Yeah, she came to me again and asked if you guys would revisit it. She's not here, but I was going to recommend that we don't stray from our original interpretation. So
I agree.
Yeah, I feel we're being generous and accommodating while still staying as close to the regulation that we're required to uphold. So, sorry.
I agree. Okay, so the next thing, couple things on the agenda. We have some Board of Health orders that we put in 2020, kind of like emergency basis, the rec camps, farmers markets, and then we decided to stay in step 1 of phase 3. We have, obviously a lot of stuff is reopening, and this year is going to look different than 2020. So some of these orders are a little outdated. So the first one, for example, step 1 of phase 3, I'm fine with just rescinding that and going with the state. If things get out of hand, we can revisit it. But I think majority of Easthampton doesn't even know, because that's kind of like old news. So like a lot of places I think are operating as if it's phase 4 anyway. So I would just ask that we rescind that and revisit if we start to have issues.
How about we just rescind all of them and vote to follow the state guidelines on all COVID-related regulations, and we can then, like, that basically will get us back to, instead of like rescinding, that will basically get us back to level, and then we can move backwards if we need to.
So I agree to that. Construction sites, I don't think construction places are aware and following that. They were back in like early COVID. I want to converse with the mayor first, because that was kind of like her idea, I guess. But I agree, let's The only one I don't want to rescind yet is two of them. The mandatory wearing of masks in designated areas of Easthampton. That doesn't even really apply right now because the state changed to require masks in all public locations.
Everywhere.
But if the state were to update that, we still have this. And that was kind of a big undertaking, you know, with the map and the signage. So I say we keep that one as like a cushion. And then the farmer's market one, I made that with the farmer's market and we both agree to a lot of it in there because MDAR has a farmer's market advisory. It's not like a DLS enforceable thing. So I would ask to keep that. There's just a couple of changes that I want to run by you. So if you want to rescind this step 1 of phase 3, the rec camps for children, the essential business is open to the public, which is outdated at this point. That was basically like before DLS came up with stuff. And the construction sites, granted, I talked to the mayor. I'm good with that. And let's just keep the masks and farmer's market for now.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Amy?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah. And we just need to, we just need to really, keep a close eye on Amy's metrics. And I'm just feeling worried with everything. So,
well, we're certainly, I don't know about Easthampton, but the state is certainly going in the wrong direction again.
Yep.
East Long Meadow's back in the red.
Yep. And that's what I figured out. So we can certainly do that. And I think you're right that people aren't even aware. Everybody's just following the state. But if we rescind them, then we have a more strict regulation if we have to.
Yeah. So if you guys want to vote on Jackie, all the wording is on our website, but if you want to vote on the step 1 of phase 3, construction sites, essential businesses open to the public, and rec camps for children, and then we'll move on to the farmer's market.
So I make a motion to rescind the regulations and ordinances that were just mentioned by Bree.
I second that motion. All in favor? Yes.
Jackie, are you clear on which one she mentioned?
She will instruct me when I get in the office tomorrow and point them out directly.
Okay.
I'm ready.
As long as we,
Thank God you're in charge, Bree.
Stay above board.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. The farmer's market, I had the farmer's market director and I spoke last week and I said, are you good with last year's order? Do you want to edit it, update it? She sent me some comments. There are some that I was like good with, no problem. There's a couple I have question marks and there's a couple I have no underlined. So I'm just going to go through them with you guys. If you want to comment on them, you can. If you don't, I can just work it out with the farmer's market director. But she's good with everything except for a couple things. So the first one was, she asked if we could change manager to committee. Easy. I said, yeah, that's fine. Because she was the manager and she didn't want everyone to keep coming to her. She wanted everyone to go to a committee member. So I said, that's fine. Hand washing, she said, no one is offering samples this year as, last year. Are we okay with having one hand wash station for all vendors to use? I'm fine with that. There's no samples. Everything's prepackaged or it's fresh produce. So one hand wash thing in addition to hand sanitizer at each booth. Cash handling. Last year, they would give the vendors or they'd give the customers, if you came with like $20, they'd give you all ones and the vendors would make it so everything came out to an even number. They asked if they still had to do that or if they could handle their own cash. I'm fine with that, but MDAR's farmer's market advisory has not yet been updated. I called them today to see when they would have it updated. They didn't get back to me. So until they update it, that was MDAR's recommendation. So I told her.
It was a recommendation. It was not a requirement. And we know now that COVID isn't spread through contact.
Yeah.
It's through aerosol droplets. And even if it was through contact, porous materials like dollar bills hold it for like minutes. We're talking minutes. So I'm fine varying from the recommendation and saying they can all use their money.
Yeah.
You're fine with that?
I am too. I mean, we're doing that at any other places of business.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's hard because I told her, I was like, listen, I agree with you. It's kind of like the well thing though. Some of the state regulations make 0 sense. And it's like the food truck thing at breweries, like it makes no sense. I get it, but it's just like, but
Just the way it is. Yep.
The other thing is, I'm not okay with this one. This is what I said no to. We require each vendor to check in with somebody at the market, the committee, stating that just verbally, they don't have symptoms, they're not a close contact.
Attestation. I agree. Keep it.
Yeah. I told her, I said, we've had a couple employees in Easthampton work like 4 days while symptomatic. And my first question is to the owner, did you screen them each day? I know it's monotonous. I know 99% of the time the answer is no, but you may, trigger someone in their head to be like, oh yeah, I was a close contact. So I said no to that.
Agreed.
No, I agree.
Last year we required a dedicated entrance and exit. They're wondering if they could have the entrance and exit at the same place, but you enter on like one side of the table and exit on the other. The rest of the market will be one way. I'm fine with it if you guys are.
I am fine too. I mean, one-way directional flow. I mean, it's they're outside. They're not going to be sitting there long enough to transmit the virus, even the newer strains. So yeah.
Gloves. We required gloves all last year. I said that's fine. They don't need them anymore.
Agreed.
As long as they got the hand washing ability. Mm-hmm.
Yep. No reusable bags. I said that's fine. They can go back to using reusable bags. That was like a,
Yep.
They were wondering if this is again one of those MDAR things. MDAR said no handling of produce. They were wondering if they could use parchment paper to handle produce. I said question mark because MDAR says no, but again, that's from 2020. So are you guys, I mean, if you go to Big Y, you can handle all the produce you want, but it's up to you guys on that one.
I don't understand.
Could they give produce paper or parchment? Did I say parchment paper to handle the produce?
So like
they want to no longer use the parchment paper.
No, they want to use it instead of not touching it at all.
Yeah, it's like when you go to Whole Foods.
Oh, last year you couldn't touch it at all?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like using the paper to grab it instead of your gloves or bare hand.
Amy's on a roll today.
I know. What'd you do? Drink extra coffee?
Am I on a roll? I don't know.
So you're good with parchment paper handling produce?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think that's necessary, honestly, but sure, we'll go with parchment paper.
I mean, the only no is they still need to check in with somebody. I agree with that. That one I was like, I don't feel comfortable.
They have to.
Or some form of attestation. I don't care how they do it. They could do it with an email at the beginning of every day. Yes, 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 yes. Or a form that is left on every booth. Yes, yes, yes. And I hand it in. I mean, they can figure out a way to do it in a way that works for them, but there does need to be some kind of check-in.
And I told her too, that's actually required in all of DLS's businesses, retail, hair salons, nails, like everything it's required. I said, I'm not fine with that. So,
yep. They don't let me in my hair salon until I do all that.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I've cut my own hair since last February.
Wow, nice job.
That's pretty good.
I've saved so much money, and it's mostly not horrible. So
I can't tell that you did. I was unknown.
Thank you. I mean, well, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're recording.
I know. We have to remember, we used to not record our
I know.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's only because we're using City Council Zoom or whatever, but eventually when we go back to in person. And then the only last part is when Mayor approved the title change as health director. Initially, she said I had to go in front of City Council to be appointed. Then the city clerk was like, no, you don't. In the charter, it says the Board of Health has to appoint you. So I just need you guys to vote on me being the health director.
Yes.
I vote for a change in Bree's title from health agent to director of public health for the town of Easthampton.
I second that. All in favor? Yes.
Thanks. So I will send you guys the farmers market final draft. Next week, I have nothing scheduled because I am leaving on the 24th for Mexico, and I'm not looking back for a week. I'm shutting like everything off.
Good for you.
Yeah, I know. That was my goal. I said when COVID, not that COVID has slowed down, but I said when, like the travel ban has been kind of changed to an advisory with the vaccine and all that. So I'm going to be gone from the 24th, I think, to like the 1st of May. I'll change my email and my voicemail, all that. I think everyone's got things covered. But Brian and Jackie have you guys to reach out to, Amy, Hart, anybody that they need help with. So next week I have my schedule just like blocked off as clear. So I'll get a lot of this stuff done before I leave, like the farmer's market order. And I'll send it to you just for a final look over, but we should be good. And I can't really think of anything else. We're getting slammed right now with like food trucks, seasonal operations opening, camps are starting up. We have about half the number of camps this year, and we have no residential ones. So Williston is not allowing residential camps this year. So
Good.
I think we have like a total of 6 or 7 day camps, which is down from like 12 in the past. So
Good.
Yeah. Amy, how are things going in East Long Meadow? You guys crazy?
We want to adjourn the meeting at this point, or just to be off the record, or does it matter? I guess it doesn't matter. Never mind.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion. Meeting is adjourned at 5:03 p.m.